610 going once. 610 going twice.
You're out of
Oh,
here.
yes. What? Mike.
Yes. Hey.
Wow.
Sorry
Can't
about
even get to the phone on
Wow,
time.
what were you doing?
Sam, last
I
week, Mike
was
from PA
filling up the weed
waited.
whacker. I had some time, so I was trying to get some yard work done today. But
So wait, you had
I
the
was like
phone,
eighth on the
you were
list.
on the phone and you were weed whacking.
Not weed whacking yet. I was preparing. Anyway,
Okay.
it's not important.
All right.
Yeah, I called in. Speaking of John from San Antonio,
Keep my name out of your fucking mouth, Mike. You don't even get to the phone quickly enough because, it doesn't matter. It's not important. Like every other thing that you say when you call in and drag this show. I'll smack you in the face if you ever mention my name again. So tread lightly.
so you guys clipped the call from him about the California primary, and I just wanted to lift up his heart a little bit because he sounded down in the dumps.
Right.
And here's the thing.
Subsequent
they're
to
not
that
done
day,
counting.
right. Subsequent to that day,
They're not.
2.1 million ballots have come in.
Yes. So when he called, it was actually still legal for ballots to show up that day,
Right.
and they did. So right now they've counted 4.8 million, and there's another 2 million to go. And so that'll put them at about 7 million. So that'll be more votes in this midterm primary than ever in California history, and about 1.5 million more than 2012 presidential primary. And about 1.5 million more than 2010, the Republican wave. The only races that I could see that had more votes were 2008 and 2016 presidential primaries. So
Right.
it's actually a gigantic tsunami. I would say that almost every single one of those seats he was talking about in California are definitely on the table. I'd say there's 7 Democratic seats that are plausible pickups, and you could probably take 4 of them to the bank for sure. You guys still with me?
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
So,
Who's there?
All right. Well,
Mike,
hold on. Let Mike-
psychiatrist?
no, go ahead. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. So there is. So if you're feeling like there's a blue wave and this feels unusual, it's because there is. They just take a really long time to count in California because they have very permissive voting laws. They let you vote by mail. They let you, mail your ballot election day. So all it has to do is be postmarked by election day, and that's it. So, they count for it. I think it's going to be July 8th is when they estimate they'll be done.
There was like
Which
at least 200,000, almost 200,000 ballots that had to be cast as provisional ballots, right? Now, did those get counted?
I think it's like 340,000 actually.
Would they?
So here's the thing about a provisional ballot. If you cast a provisional ballot in California and you're listening to the show, you should consider your ballot to not count unless you affirmatively call in and say, like, hey, here's the information that you guys were lacking, proving that I'm eligible. 1.6 million of the outstanding ballots are regular ballots, so they will count for sure. But yeah, provisional ballot is another word for trash ballot, unless you affirmatively take steps to make sure it gets counted. The thing that's cool about California is they have an actual, it's like a almost Domino's pizza, process tracker for your ballot to see exactly how far along the process it is, whether it's been counted yet, whether it's lacking information. So you can go on the California Secretary of State website and look yourself up and make sure you got counted.
What will happen to those voters in the fall? That's my question. So if you're talking about 350,000 voters who came and voted, who, if I had to bet, you come and vote in a primary for a midterm, you're going to come out and vote in that midterm. Will the reasons why their ballot was provisional be fixed by then?
So it depends on what state you're in. I believe in California they have same-day registration. Might want to check up on that if you're in California. But so if you come out and they say, oh, we don't have you registered. Usually you just register right then and then cast a provisional. Like you re-register to make sure that you're all set up for.
So that in that election, that ballot will not be counted more than likely, unless.
Oh, it may be counted. It may be. Like I don't want to be too flip. Like if they really do have a registration form that hadn't been processed yet and had been submitted.
But it's likely that process would lead you to be re-registered or registered properly for the coming election. So there's that extra 400,000 ballots right there.
Yeah. So this is in line with what we've seen around the country, which has been these 13, 14-point swings. I want to talk about the generic ballot, and then if you guys need to go, I understand. Like right now, we have a generic ballot where the Dems are leading by about, between 8 and 10. Right now, the polls are on registered voter polls. So they just ask, are you registered to vote? And then they say, what is your opinion? Who would you vote for, et cetera. What's going to happen is when we're about 60 days out from the election, these pollsters are going to switch to a likely voter model.
Right.
And that's where the enthusiasm gap is really going to show up. And which voter turnout model these pollsters are picking is going to determine their results, basically.
This is the bottom line to understand about polling, is that particularly in this environment, the issue, the quality of the poll is wholly a function of being able to determine who is actually going to show up at the polls. And when you poll registered voters, you really are not, you're just getting the potential eligible people who are going to show up at the polls, not the people who are actually going to vote. And in this instance, we're seeing like a whole raft of people who generally are not likely to vote, but they're showing up and voting. What happened in California, as you've expressed, is pretty stunning, where you have a midterm primary that does better than, I think it did better. My understanding is that it did better than maybe some midterms even. Never mind the actual primary.
I didn't go back and look, but I did look at the all the previous primary elections and that were available easily. And I hadn't seen any midterm where they had done better, except for 2008 and 2016, which, of course, were contested presidential primaries on both parties.
Right.
And 2008 was kind of like the historic high water mark.
So it's you don't know who's going to show up, and when they start to model that, some are going to be right and some are going to be wrong, but they're going to be taking that into consideration, and then we're going to see we're really going to get a notion of just what's going on in terms of the ballot.
This is very important because one of the things that people they see these fluctuations in these voter aggregations for the generic ballot, and last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a bunch of polls that came in a little bit tighter, and so it looked like the generic ballot was narrowing. But the primary reason that is because there was an outlier poll in Reuters, and where the Republicans were winning by 5, which was just some weird thing. And then the very next poll that came out, the Dems were winning by 10. So that's going to happen from time to time, just random, noise. And there's Rasmussen. Now, the one thing about Rasmussen is it's a Republican polling firm, and they always use a likely voter model. And so right now they're using a 2014 voter turnout model. So they're kind of shifting the numbers more towards the Republicans because they're basically discounting all these people who say, I'm really pissed off at Trump and I don't usually vote in midterms, but I am this time. They're downweighting those people. And so Rasmussen is always the Republicans are doing best in that poll. But the fact, based on what we've seen so far, turnout in the specials, and just the emotions that I feel talking to Democratic voters all the time, that's insane. There's no way we're having 2014 again.
Right.
I'm not saying it's in the bag and you don't have to do work. Everybody should stay pissed, keep working. But if you're feeling like, it's not working out, you're actually getting the wrong impression. And the media is desperate for takes that say the Republicans are doing better than expected in Trump. They're obsessed with Trump voters. They want to push that narrative for some reason. Who knows why? But the facts just don't match that. And, one more thing for John. John, I really recommend that you check out the Progressive Change Campaign Committee candidates. Sometimes they are different than the Our Revolution candidates, but almost every single one of them are strong progressives as well. And if you look at the totality of the major progressive groups, Justice Democrats, PCCC, Our Revolution, you'll see that they're doing really well. And just if I could comment on that, and then I'll let you go.
Well, you're talking about the PCCC. This is we've had Adam Green on this program many times in the past, and they have been around for now 6 or 7, 8 years at least. And on some level, their network and ability to identify not just candidates that have progressive values, but that are good candidates, I think, just because of the maturation of their organization, I think they do it
exactly.
They do it a little better,
and they also provide world-class candidate and staff training as well.
Yes.
So like PCCC,
they've asked me to come down there for that.
Started.
They've asked me to come. They've asked me to come down there for that the past couple of times, but they always do it late, and so I never.
Oh, you should have come down last time.
I know.
I know. Mark was down there, so and Keith and Liz and Bernie were down there, so it was pretty cool. But yeah, and then there's also Move On and DFA. So like if you look at those candidates, try not to hyper focus on one group. I love Our Revolution, and every candidate I work for, I try to get them endorsed by them, and they're great and they do a lot of good work, but they're not the only progressive organization. You need to keep focus on that. The thing about Our Revolution is they see their mission as trying to push progressive candidates in these more marginal seats that are harder to win. They endorse candidates in R+10 districts that most Democratic groups would just not even bother with.
Right.
It's because they have a theory of politics that if we can push progressive values, we'll start making gains in places people thought we couldn't win. And also the Democratic Party has abandoned these places, so they can step in and provide that building the infrastructure. And it's not going to just work the first time. It takes time to do these things.
Right. You're building an infrastructure.
A lot of these candidates.
You're building an infrastructure.
Right.
You're not. You can't. You don't. It's not built. But. All right, Mike. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, my man.
Thanks.
Sorry about the weed whacker.
Fuck you,
Have a
Mike.
good one.